Rain fell softly over St. Gabriel's Church that evening, its stained glass windows glowing with warm light as laughter and piano music spilled into the night air. Inside, people in designer suits and glittering dresses mingled, holding crystal glasses of wine beneath chandeliers. Near the back, a young woman stood quietly, clutching a tray of cupcakes she'd baked herself. Her dress was plain, her shoes worn thin. Yet in her eyes lived a humble hope, the kind that can't be bought. "Are those supposed to be for the auction?" a woman in pearls scoffed, turning to her friends. "How adorable!" The others laughed, the girl's smile faltered. She looked down at the tray, her reflection rippling in the glossy frosting, but before she could walk away, a deep, steady voice from the crowd said, "I'll take all of them." Every head turned toward the tall man in a black suit near the front, a stranger no one recognized, and just like that, the room went silent. Lila Carter, 23, lived on the quiet edge of town. Her mother was sick, her father gone years ago. She worked double shifts at a diner and still found time to bake for charity events, hoping to raise enough for her mom's medicine. She didn't have much, but she carried kindness like armor, smiling even when her heart was heavy. That evening, she'd come to the church fundraiser with trembling hands and a box of homemade cupcakes. It wasn't much, but it was her way of giving. On the other end of the room stood Charles Donovan, a billionaire real estate magnate. Polished shoes, silver watch, expression unreadable. People whispered his name as if it were a spell, the man who built half the city. But tonight, he'd come not as a donor, but as a watcher. A silent observer seeking something money couldn't buy, and when his gaze fell on Lila, something in her simple sincerity caught him off guard. Like a memory he thought he'd buried long ago, the fundraiser buzzed with polite laughter and ego. Lila stood by her small table, trying to draw attention to her cupcakes. "All proceeds go to the children's shelter," she said softly. A group of wealthy guests passed by without looking. One man joked, "Honey, maybe she should donate those to a bake sale, not a gala." Lila's cheeks flushed. The laughter burned. She swallowed the lump in her throat and whispered, "Thank you for coming anyway." From the corner, Charles watched. His assistant leaned close. "Sir, shall I make the donation quietly as usual?" He shook his head. "No. Not tonight." Instead, he began observing, not just Lila, but everyone around her. The arrogance. The vanity. The way kindness was mistaken for weakness. The priest announced, "Next up, our charity auction. We'll begin with donations from local businesses." Lila's tray was still untouched, and then, one of the rich ladies, Vivian Hale, sneered, "Maybe we can auction those little cupcakes as a pity prize." Laughter erupted again. Lila bit her lip, humiliation stinging like salt in a wound, but before the priest could speak, Charles raised a hand. His deep voice cut through the noise, "I'll bid $10,000 for the cupcakes." Gasps rippled through the hall, all eyes were on him. Lila blinked, thinking she'd misheard. "Yes sir, they're just," he smiled faintly. "Cupcakes." "Yes, I know. But I see something special in them." The crowd murmured, disbelief and envy mixing like perfume and smoke. Vivian laughed nervously. "Surely, Mr. Donovan, you're joking." "I never joke about generosity," he said simply. He walked toward Lila, every step echoing in the marble hall. "Tell me, Miss Lila." "Lila Carter." "Miss Carter," he said softly, "why did you bake these?" Her voice trembled. "For the children's shelter. They're short on funds. I thought maybe, if people liked them." He nodded, impressed. "You did all this yourself?" "Yes, sir. I used my mom's old recipe." Something flickered behind his calm expression, a shadow of memory. His late mother had done the same once, baking for fundraisers when his family had nothing. He reached into his pocket and handed the priest a check. "Make sure this goes directly to the shelter, not tonight's expenses." Then, to Lila, "Keep your cupcakes. They've already served their purpose." As the night went on, the whispers began. Why would a billionaire buy cupcakes from a nobody? Maybe he's making a statement. Or maybe she's just lucky. But Lila didn't feel lucky. She felt exposed, as if kindness had suddenly become a spectacle. She slipped outside for air. The rain had stopped, leaving the world glistening and still. Moments later, Charles followed quietly. "You don't like attention," he said. She turned, startled. "It's not that. I didn't want anyone to feel sorry for me." He studied her face, honest, tired, yet radiant with quiet strength. "You remind me of someone I once knew," he murmured. "Who?" "My mother." His voice softened. "She used to bake bread and give it to neighbors even when we couldn't afford our own dinner. She said kindness was the only thing that multiplies when you give it away." Lila smiled faintly. "She sounds like a beautiful person." "She was," he said. "And I lost her before I could tell her that." Silence lingered between them, not heavy, but human. Then he asked, "If you had $1 million, what would you do?" She laughed softly. "I'd pay off Mom's hospital bills. And build a kitchen at the shelter so they could serve warm meals instead of canned food." He smiled. "Not a word about yourself." "I guess. I just want to make life a little easier for people who feel invisible." Charles nodded, and in that moment, he made a decision. A week later, Lila received a letter. No sender, just her name handwritten in ink. Inside was a check, for $500,000. She froze. Her heart pounded. Attached was a note for the woman who gives even when she has nothing. CD. Her hands shook as tears blurred her vision. She called the church, the shelter. No one knew who it was from, but then, a few days later, a black car pulled up outside her small apartment. Charles stepped out. "Why?" she asked, still holding the letter. "Why me?" He smiled gently. "Because you passed the test." "Test?" He nodded. "I fund charity events every year. But this time, I wanted to see something real, to find someone who gives without expecting anything back. You were that person." She covered her mouth, overwhelmed. He continued, "That money isn't charity. It's partnership. I'm building a foundation, the Gabriel Fund. I want you to help run it. Your heart is what the world needs more of." Her eyes filled again, not from disbelief, but from the weight of hope reborn. Months later, the shelter had a new kitchen, painted bright yellow, the air filled with laughter and the smell of bread baking. Children ran around, volunteers worked side by side, and at the center of it all, Lila. On the wall hung a small plaque, "Kindness is the highest form of wealth." CD. Charles visited one afternoon, standing quietly in the doorway. "You've done more with this place in 3 months than most do in years," he said. She smiled. "I just did what my mom taught me, give love where it's needed most." He nodded. "And you reminded me what all my success was supposed to mean in the first place." As sunlight streamed through the windows, he turned to leave. "Mr. Donovan," she called softly. "Thank you, for seeing me." He paused, eyes gentle. "No, Miss Carter. Thank you for reminding me to see people again." The sound of children's laughter filled the air as he walked away, a man once defined by wealth, now humbled by the richness of a single act of kindness. Sometimes, the true test of character isn't how much you give, but how sincerely you give it. Kindness needs no audience, only intention, and in a world obsessed with value, it's often the poorest hearts that hold the richest souls. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more stories of kindness. And if you've ever experienced a moment like this, share it in the comments. Your words might inspire someone else.